Welcome to the Besotted Pride of West London podcast. We're almost a week into our new season. We've got our first game out of the way and we're reconvening now that we know that we've got points on the board back in the virtual joint. It's a shame we can't get to the pub, but we were in the pub until quite late on Sunday and we've got a big away day at Fulham. Looking forward to that at the weekend. I'm Dave Lane and joining me tonight is Ali Mullally. How are you, Ali?
I am absolutely buzzing, actually, Dave, after this morning, and England are in the World Cup final.
I know.
It's bloody fantastic. Absolutely buzzing. Absolutely.
Yeah, what a great way to start the day that is, watching the Lionesses do the business. So, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But, yeah, no, I think everyone's shared in that joy this morning. And, we're looking forward to the final on Sunday. And Damien Flanley, how are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah,
You enjoying the season so far after 90 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad start, was it? We're off the mark with a point. I enjoyed the game on Sunday. I thought it was a reasonable performance, probably a 7 out of 10 for me, but, onwards and upwards.
100%. Good. So we'll have a chat about that in a minute. The dust has settled on the 2-2 result against Harry Kane-less Tottenham and Ivan Toney-less Brentford. It was a bit of a kind of like, the two talismanic players were missing, but the players that were left behind, they obviously they served up a decent game, and I wish we obviously won it. Before we move on to what we thought about it, I just wanted to check what you thought of Jonathan Pearce's comments on Match of the Day 2. He described the game as surreal and bizarre, which I couldn't quite fathom out where he was coming from. And I know that there was like a water shortage at the beginning of the game. The game was delayed it was only a couple of minutes at the end, wasn't it? It wasn't like a half an hour like they had at Arsenal the day before where the ticketing system collapsed. It was I'm not sure if it was really worth mentioning, to be honest. They leave so much out of the commentary. They leave so many good chances out that to put that there was like water supply shortages that really didn't affect the delay for more than, as I said, a couple of seconds. I just thought that was odd. What was your kind of views on what he said? Because I just thought it was a strange commentary from start to finish. Ali?
I think the surreal comment was a bit of... The second half did feel a little bit surreal because everything went really quiet and really flat, didn't it? So it was quite quiet. I think it was the comment sort of like that Ivan Toney's goals that have kept them in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons. How about Harry Kane's goals keeping Spurs in the Premier League last season? Because without his goals, they would have been lower than us. I mean, we finished 9th, for Christ's sake. We didn't finish 16th. We finished 9th. I mean, even if you take all of Ivan's goals out and assume nobody else would have scored, we would still have finished something like 15th, 14th or 15th. The man has clearly not done his research. And he had another dreadful commentary in the semi-final yesterday for the Women's World Cup, and it was just sort of like, I don't know, sort of like, it's your job to do your research, it's your job to do it properly, and not to come out with silly comments like that. I thought it was really poor.
So Damien, Ivan Toney was the only reason we stayed up last season, and Christian Eriksen was the only reason we stayed up the season before. Is that right?
I think that's a load of old tosh, to be honest. But and I think we proved that, end of last season, we beat Spurs away, we beat City at home without Ivan Toney. We won other games without him as well. We're more than capable of beating top quality opposition without Ivan Toney. I think that's proven.
I mean, I know it's kind of like a bit, I don't know, maybe touchy, a bit kind of sensitive to react to individual comments, but it just kind of like we played so well and we contributed so much to the division in the 2 seasons we've been here. I just thought that others, outsiders or commentators, people that look from the outside in, would just kind of be giving us just a little bit more credit where credit's due now. And I think it's just a little bit. It's just like, as you say that, Ali, just a bit ignorant and poorly researched, just to like run out they just like run out cliches and stereotypical kind of lazy comments. Am I being a bit sensitive, or have I got a point?
I think you've got a point. I think it's just lazy. It's cliched. it's stereotypical. And no, I think you've got a very good point. I don't think he did a good job. Like I said, I don't think he did his research properly. It was a lazy, cliched commentary for me. And there are many, many commentators out there who would have done a hell of a lot better job.
Would you have done a better job, Dane?
I'd like to think so.
I'm pretty sure you would, to be honest. Yeah. So talk us through the game from your perspective. We'll listen back to what the fans said in the stadium and back in the Globe in a few minutes. But important to kind of, now the dust has settles, just to kind of chew the fat on just how that sets the season up. I said quite a few times after the game that if you can't win your first game, the last thing you want to do is lose it. So you come out of the first match with at least a point. It proves that you can compete at this level again, and you've got a point on the board. Sometimes if you lose, you kind of like, you're looking over your shoulder already, and people are starting to write you off, especially people like Jonathan Pearce. So what did you both think? Start with you, Damien.
I thought it was a decent performance, a very sort of highly tactical game, almost like a game of chess at times. But I think we found good areas of space, particularly with Rico down that left-hand side. I thought he was outstanding and really gave us a lot of invention going forward. We created some decent chances. Obviously, Brian missed a big one that you'd hope he'd sort of put away. But on the whole, I think it was very positive. And obviously on the defensive side, a little bit disappointing to concede. Particularly so late in the end of that first half with that really long time added on, and obviously the free kick was disappointing as well. But I think we more than matched them and absolutely deserved our point, and probably on balance had the better chances. So I think lots of positives from that.
Ali, what did you think?
I think first of all, I think it was a really difficult game to set up for tactically, because it would. I don't think anybody really had any idea how they were going to play without Kane. I think even if Kane had been there with a different coach, you weren't really sure how Tottenham were going to set up. I think we started very well. I think we played really well the first half. Just the end of the first half was just, that 11 minutes was just, it was almost like we got to 45 minutes and sort of, oh, it's half time now. And we played like there was only a minute of stoppage time or something, while there was still 11, while they carried on playing. And you could, that equal, felt inevitable. It felt absolutely inevitable that it was coming. I think we lost a bit of momentum when Jensen went off. I think we lost what he brings us. I think generally overall, I think the first half we were very good. I think there was a couple of chances, Brian's big chance, Damsgaard's chance in the second half. I think he should have put his foot through that. We took a couple of touches to try to place it. Easy for me to say. But yeah, we didn't lose. I think it was a decent performance on an opening day against a team that we really didn't know what to expect from. And I'm quite happy with the point by the end of it, to be honest. And I think Thomas will be happy with the point, and it's a decent point to start off with.
You're so right.
We're sort of like, how far have we come, haven't we? Like, it's a point against Spurs. And we're just going, yeah, well.
Yeah, I get that. I guess every year that we're at this level, we have to kind of become a little bit more kind of less kind of like rabbit in the headlights kind of about being here. But and I think also that's why it's so important to see points go on the board, because you kind of like that kind of just underpins everything else. You're kind of like, okay, we're here. We're doing all right again, aren't we? And then obviously, it doesn't seem like the players ever feel like that, and that's the thing that always kind of reassures me. When we get nervous when they play those triangles out of the back and those kind of like really sort of heart in mouth, intricate way, working their way up the pitch, playing it round opposition, knocking it back to the goalkeeper who dinks it, like delicate balls. You think you just put your bloody foot through it, will you? How about you, Al? I mean,
Fleckens. Can I just say, you talk about a goalkeeper dinking balls. I thought Flecken's distribution, his work with his feet was outstanding.
Was it Flecken brilliant?
It was Flecking brilliant. Okay, hold your phrase. It was Flecking brilliant. I mean, it was just sort of like, there were a couple of balls you went, wow.
Yeah, there was one in the second.
There really one or two, and I would say he outrayed Raya with a couple, which is going some.
I guess that is a massive plus, Damien, because we have had, clearly, David Raya has been so instrumental in the way we've evolved from, a wannabe championship team that's kind of with aspirations of getting out, and then clearly one of the best teams in the championship who deserve to get out, and then we're out and we are kind of establishing ourselves and a playing style in the top tier of English football, top tier of world football probably. David Raya has been with us all of that journey, and he's been part of the way we play football. You take him out of the equation, then you kind of you've got a big question mark. The succession, the person you bring in, are they going to be as good? Is the style of play going to change? Do Brentford have to change? What we saw on Sunday afternoon suggests that not a lot changes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, in a way, the way the Raya exit has played out, it's given us enough time to really think about and plan that succession plan. So I think fair play to to Phil Giles and his team, because they've obviously looked long and hard, and we've known this was coming for a long time. So I think they've got the right man in, and so far so good.
And clearly as well, Brian Mbeumo, and again, I'm not going to go back to Jonathan Pearce the whole of this podcast, but he said, Brian Mbeumo steps up to take the penalty. He looks nervous. He didn't look nervous at all. He looked really calm, considered, and really fully in control. And clearly he's been taking lessons from the master, Ivan Toney, at penalties, because it was pretty much out of his copybook. Gave the keeper the eyes, looking one way, kicking the other, straight-legged, back of net, curled it into that bottom corner. There was never really any doubt that he was going to miss that from the moment he stepped up. He's turning into a real experienced man now. He arrived to us as a rookie, full of potential. He's proving himself week in and week out, isn't he?
Yeah, you left out the Chloe Kelly skip as well that he did.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I think Brian again. I think he was. Yeah, he was. I think he had another very, very good game.
Apart from the miss, Damien.
Apart from the miss, but it wouldn't be Brian. It wouldn't be Brian if he didn't miss something, would it? At least he didn't hit the post.
I was going to say, if he'd hit the woodwork, we'd have been more angry than the fact that he missed it in the way he did.
And someone said to me in the game that Gareth Southgate was there, and we were trying to work out who he was looking at, and I've given up saying he must be looking at Rico Henry, but Rico, if ever he needed to impress anymore, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm mentioning him because he's the one that set up Brian's chance. He had that brilliant take down the left hand side, and he crossed the ball beautifully. He just needed a finish. Another day he'll get it, but we've often not criticised, but we kind of questioned his final pass, his delivery. There was nothing wrong with it on Sunday, was it, Damien?
Nothing at all. I thought he was outstanding. He gave us, as I said before, he gave us an extra dimension going forward. I'd say the only thing he really needs to try and up, if he can, is his goal scoring ratio. He doesn't score many. He often, doesn't get that many chances in front of goal, but when he has had some big moments, he's kind of often shot straight at the keeper from the top of my head. So I think that's the only thing I would say he can really improve on from where he is, because he's just an outstanding player for us and consistent as well.
Yeah, it's true. He doesn't get a lot of chances, but when he does get them, sometimes they're wayward, including one in Philadelphia against Fulham. He was beautifully placed, and he kind of screwed it horribly wide, where goal was just gaping. But there you go. I guess he's not
on the pitch to score goals, though, is he?
No, well, no, but we can't use that. We can't use that as a kind of an okay, because that's probably the thing that has actually stopped him getting into the England team. You can't say, he's not in the team to get those crosses in, or he's not in the team to score those goals. If he added that to his game, he certainly would be. And I agree. I'm not being a pedant, but those are probably the two things that have actually stopped him from being in that England squad. But he's got hopefully another season season to kind of prove his worth. And I certainly wouldn't rule him out for the World Cup. And I don't see many left backs that are anywhere near his form or his speed. I'm hoping for another huge season from him.
I honestly think he'll be in the England squad in the next international break, because he was that good on Sunday. And the one thing Southgate has said about him is he needs to improve his attacking output. And I thought he put in some really, really good crosses, really good passes, attack-wise on Sunday. And I'm gonna stick my neck on the line and say he's going to be in it.
I'll have a fiver with you, Al.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll head back to the terraces and the pubs. We'll listen to what the Brentford fans thought after the game. No Spurs fans around. They'd all buggered right off. It's a weird one because going back to the Globe, you don't really bump into any Tottenham fans. There was no one to ask what they thought of it. Let's head back to the terraces and hear what the Brentford fans thought of the game after the final whistle.
Couple of soft goals I think that we let in, but we looked a good team again. There's three centre backs who haven't played together before. You could see that was a little bit rusty. All playing with the goalie for the first time as well, but he was immaculate. Flecken second half. Have to see the second goal maybe, but his distribution and his catching and he's dominating the area. He was good. Going forward, we look good. Couple of chances. Shardon needs one to bounce off his arse and go in and get him up and running, but we're a good team, we're a good squad, it bodes well for the season, I think, Dave.
I'm really happy with the goalkeeper, a clear replacement for David Raya, no worries on that score. We missed Ben Mee today, we did miss Ben Mee. They were coming through the centre too much. Their two goals, I think, were caused by Raya and Pinnock not really knowing quite what they were up to and doing. I'm okay with it, we've watched some decent football on a nice afternoon, and we've got Fulham next week. Onward and upward. That's all we can do.
But I thought it was a decent performance. It's quite an interesting back three because we had Raya playing on the left, which is quite interesting because I think we wanted to play Pinnock in the middle. So we're playing a right footer on the left, which is a bit odd. And when Zanka came on and replaced him, we did the same. So that was quite interesting. I think it's because we trust Pinnock more. But I think it was just a decent setup. The front two looked decent, but I think their second goal was more of a matter of just letting them play across our 18-yard box too often, and they just whacked it in. But I think good performances throughout. 2-2, fair result in the end, I think.
If anyone had any questions about the goalkeeper, Flecken, I think they should be resolved now because he made a couple of key saves, made one with his feet to Son, one a bit later from a header. Nothing flashy, but he was in the right place, positioned himself well, and his distribution was excellent. Negatives were, I think, sometimes we invited Tottenham onto us by very, very short goal kicks and letting them come at us, then giving the ball away. But overall, the positives by far outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. I was expecting us to go with a 4-3-3, went with a 5 at the back instead. But I felt like both of the wing backs were really good today, especially Hickey. Going forward is, I think, one of the best games I've seen him go in. Rico exceeded his usually excellent standards. Otherwise, I felt like we played pretty well. I think Flecken, his distribution was amazing today. A bit shaky the first half at the back, especially with the short passes. That's where we invited a lot of pressure onto ourselves and conceded the 2 goals. But overall, can't complain too much, really.
So Tottenham will be thinking, we should be a top 4, 5, 6 team. And today they've gone toe-to-toe with a team that is their equal, absolutely equal. There was no department we were out of our depth.
So there you have it. That's what the Brentford fans thought after the match. It's pretty much off the same hymn sheet, to be honest with you. I think there was not many people in there that thought we deserved to not win that game. I honestly thought that if we had approached injury time in the first half slightly differently, then it did seem inevitable that we would would concede. It just felt like it. Or maybe it's like muscle memory. Maybe you've seen things, seen so many games, you just know how things are going to pan out. I don't know whether we are actually in a matrix or not, but it seemed like I'd been here before I knew what was about to happen, and so it proved to be. So yeah, we learn from it. As I said, we've got a point under the belts, and we go to Fulham, and looking forward to probably. And well, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say what I thought, because we'll get to that bit later on. Another bit of really big news this week is that the David Raya loan / purchase / contract extension / whatever / FFP circumnavigation for Arsenal has been clarified / signed. And David Raya's granddad's got a shirt from Mikel Arteta, which made everyone cry, but we obviously couldn't give a monkeys about any of that. So it looks like David Raya's got his dream move. Phil Giles went onto the Brentford website and explained the deal, or tried to explain the deal. It's pretty much as we explained on the Besotted podcast last week. It's an arrangement that suits both parties. Arsenal get a player in that they wanted for a couple of years. They don't have to breach or get close to their FFP this transfer window, and if they do get any big transfer money in, then they'll buy in. He's extended his contract for 2 years at Brentford, so we got an extra year if it did go horribly pear-shaped. But as the director of football, Phil Giles, explained, I'm paraphrasing, basically he said, I don't expect to ever see him back at Brentford in a Brentford shirt. So it seems to me that, although it's a bit of a weird one, it's not clean and cut and dried as we all hoped. But we're seeing that more and more in football, where transfers and contracts are kind of being there's imagination being applied to these deals. So the money's come in different tax years, and the depreciation. I'm not going to go into all of that now, but basically David Raya's gone to Arsenal, and we'll probably never see him back. Is that a line in the sand to you, Damon, or are you still confused by this?
No, it's definitely a line in the sand. I think it took us all by surprise, the structure of the deal, but now we sort of understand the reasons behind it. It makes sense, and yeah, like you say, I don't think we'll see him back at Brentford, but it's good it's good precaution from Brentford to protect our asset, in case something does go wrong. So we've got that protection in place. So yeah, I think that's that basically.
How about you, Al?
The only thing I'm confused about is whether or not he should be doing a thank you post on social media to Brentford. We all know he's certainly 99% gone, but he's just signed a new contract. So can you actually put a thank you post out when you've decided you've got? It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, from that point of view? But I mean, yeah, like Damon says, it's pretty much a line in the sand, and I'm sure when it's done and dusted, and however many matches it is that triggers the buy clause, I'm sure he'll do something. Well, I hope it will anyway. I hope it doesn't go down the Ericsson route.
Yeah, no, it is really weird. It's okay for us to sit here going, oh yeah, but until it's been announced that we've got the the chunks of the money, it's 3 million quid with another 27 to come. I guess you just have to trust the process. And as I said last week, to start questioning the sanity of the sort of arrangement is to give a big disservice to the people that have been doing us so, serving us so brilliantly for the last 10 years. So I'm fully expecting it to be as been explained by Phil Giles. Someone else that there is a slight question mark over, and this one is equally as odd, is Sergi Canos. There's been rumours and talk on a Valencia website, and some noises coming out of Valencia itself that Sergi Canos is willing to help fund up to €250,000, his own deal to leave Brentford and go to his dream club, Valencia, who he's supported since a kid. Apparently, he's turned down deals and more money from both Anderlecht and from Nottingham Forest, and they've kind of he's held out for just Valencia. He wants to go there, although Valencia don't seem to be willing to pay any money for him. It's all a bit strange, Al.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. Well, I was thinking about this earlier today because there's been quite a lot of bits swirling around on social media and everything. I think a lot of this, you have to go back to the lot. He lost his mum, who was very close to, very suddenly last year. And I, to be honest, I think he and his sister just want to go back to Spain as a result, and he just wants to make that happen. And I don't think he's covered himself. We know he hasn't covered himself with glory over all of this. He shouldn't have said some of the things he said. Shouldn't have said some of the things he's done. But do you know what? Grief makes people do strange things, and I'm going to cut him some slack. That's where I think it's coming from. I think that's, if everything in his life was in inverted commas normal, I don't think this whole, saga that we're seeing at the moment with Valencia might be playing out in quite the same way. I have no actual inside information or, any knowledge of exactly what's going on, but my hunch is that has quite a large part to do with it.
Damo, what do you think? He's gone a bit quiet. Okay, well, I agree that it's just a real shame that it seems to be ending like this. I do think Brentford would have been naive not to have triggered the extension. He's a player clearly got worth. He's got value. It would be just a bit. Well, it would be. I mean, you don't give players who are as good as him away for nothing if you can get something. It's important that we're always self-sustainable, and whether it's 250,000, 500,000 or 1 million, they're not it's not money to be scoffed at. Although you can say we've just got 30 in for a goalkeeper, to lose one of them on Sergi to help him move, I don't see it that way. And it seems like I think Brentford will help him get to a right solution, but it just seems that Valencia, do they actually want him? Because if he was of value, I mean, obviously they're not going to turn him down for free because he's a good player. But if they're not prepared to pay anything for him, it does question how much they actually just genuinely want him. And I'm not. That's not a snide dig, I wish him all the best, and I hear what you say, Ali. It's important that he's happy. He's a happy boy because he's gone through a fair amount in the last year with injuries and obviously losing his mum and the insecurity of the contract coming to an end and wanting to move on and just not happening. So you do kind of like hope his mental well-being and all that is strong. So I want this situation to end in a good way. Are you back with us, Damon?
I am.
So what do you think of the Sergi situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate it's dragged on for so long because he's obviously a legend for what he did. He'll always be remembered for that opening goal in the Premier League on that first night against Arsenal, but clearly, he wants to play. It sounds like he wants to be closer to his family in Spain. I wonder if it's the owner of Valencia that's just, being tight about the situation. I think probably the head coach there probably wants Sergi, but the owner doesn't want to pay for him, so he's kind of trying to make the deal happen by other means. And obviously Sergi's desperate to go and. Well, we'll see. I guess we'll find out in the coming days whether this goes through.
Yeah, I mean, let's raise our glasses as a thank you to him, but it needs to be resolved with everyone. I mean, that's the way business and that's the way football works, So yeah, let's hope he does get his dream move to Valencia.
I also think, Dave, I think it's quite important that I want to remember Sergi for that goal at Reading, for his hat-trick at Cardiff, for scoring our first goal in the Premier League. I really don't want to remember him for the the mess of the last year that he's rather made on social media. So I just hope it's done as quickly and cleanly as possible, and we can, I want to remember players for what they've done for us rather than how it ended. It's difficult after a situation like this. Same with Eriksen. I want to remember watching him and what a joy it was to watch him, but it's difficult because of the nature of his exit. So I hope this, Sergi somehow manages to turn this around a bit, and so it's better managed and we can remember him for the player he was for us.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point. To remember someone for what they did for you as a football club, and another example of that is the news that Matthew Benham has sold FC Midtjylland yesterday. Another person who has transformed a football club, and I'm reading the comments of the Midtjylland fans and the press about what Benham has achieved for the Danish club. He's taken them from basically nothing, minnows, to winning the Superliga title 3 times, taking them to Europa Leagues and Champions League qualification. He's turned them into one of the Danish huge clubs, or the big clubs there. And he's sold out to one of the richest men, or the richest man in Denmark. So he's left a real legacy. There's a guy called Anders Povlesen who's like, as I said, like the biggest businessman in Denmark, and he's taken over the 95% of the club's shares. And Benham's kind of explained it in Benham's way. He's been really open. He's not hidden that he's used Midtjylland as a sounding board, as an experiment to see what works, what can be achieved, and then he's kind of implemented that at Brentford. Obviously there's alarm bells going off. Is Matthew Benham getting out of football? Is he selling everything up? Who knows what goes through Matt's mind? I wouldn't think that, because Smart Odds is still providing the data for Midtjylland from the press release that came out yesterday, and it's. Football is Matt's bread and butter. This is what he does, and his data, his proprietary data, is something that gives him a huge advantage in scouting players, identifying players, and his analysts and his strategists kind of implement all that in the actual real world of football. So he's a Brentford fan at the end of the day, and I'm sure there's a price. We've talked off air. We've talked on WhatsApp what Brentford is now worth as a football club, and guesstimates written out on the back of a fag packet. We're saying it could be worth anywhere between 750 million and 1.5 billion pounds. Of course, if someone comes in with that, anyone's going to kind of sit up and kind of go, right, is it time to sell? But the work here is not done, I hope, and the dream, I'm sure, or not the dream, you won't see it as a dream, but the long-term business view is to get Brentford into Europe, to get Brentford competing where Brighton are. They've got a head start on us, and Tony Bloom is one of Benham's long-term business partners stroke sworn enemies now. So I'm sure there's some beef between the two, and they'll want to be like making sure that they're the ones that are above one another in the Premiership and in Europe. What have you made of this, Damien, this week? Is it something that's got your alarm bells ringing, or you're pleased that he's got all his eggs in one basket for a change?
I'm not worried. I think the Midtjylland project has kind of run its course. He's used it very well, and it's benefited them as well. And they've won their first Danish league title in their history, which is fantastic. He's left them in a very good state, and I think now he wants to focus on other initiatives. And Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think, like you say, that rivalry with Tony Bloom is one thing, but also, he's worked so hard to get us to where we are now. I'm sure he believes that he can take us further still, and I don't doubt that at all.
Ali, have you been writing letters of "please don't go, Matt"? Or
No, I haven't. I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that David's just said there. Actually, the only thing I would add is I'm sure, like anybody else, I'm sure Matthew has his price. And if somebody does come in and offer silly money, would you blame him if he took it? I don't think I would, to be honest. But I can't see it happening. I can't see him walking away at this point, if I'm honest.
You watch Ted Lasso, don't you, Al?
Yes.
I mean, the Richmond Greyhounds, there was a 5 billion came in, but
and we're better than them.
She wouldn't sell. So
No.
the game's not quite gone, is it?
No, I don't think so. I can't see it happening at the moment anyway.
No, I'm not losing sleep over that one either. But,
There's a lot of Saudi money swashing about though, so beware.
Let's it's possible, but it's unlikely. I don't see our owner being swayed by that. But if
that's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll worry about that another day.
Indeed.
But So let's take a break here. Let's go to and have a chat with Jonathan Birchall. JB is back for another year. He's not funked out and he's not facted out. Thank God. There's more facts and there's more funk in his locker, and he's going to give us the first week of the football season. Facts and funk. Take it away, JB.
Are you ready for this? I told you it was coming. Woo! JB, and he's ready to sock it to you one time. Get it!
Hello, Jonathan Birchall back again for the club's 135th season. Saturday saw our opening league fixture, coming just 76 days since we did the double over last season's treble winners. We started our Premier League Season 3 in typical fashion, unbeaten and scoring a couple of goals, which has been the outcome in all bar one of our opening fixtures in our 10 top-tier seasons. TV Company seems to expect our matches with Spurs to provide good entertainment, as all 5 of our Premier League fixtures have been shown live. Even if Saturday was without the combined 50 league goals of last season from Harry Kane with 30 and Ivan Toney 20. It was all change in goal with David Raya in the departure lounge. In his Brentford career, he played 150 league games, conceding 147 goals, which is averaging less than a goal a game, a record no other Bees keeper playing over 75 games has achieved in our history. Therefore, he will be the hardest act to follow. And the stats showed that Mark Flecken was always unlikely to keep a clean sheet. In the last 50 seasons, we've had 48 debutants between the sticks, back to Paddy Roach. But just 13 have managed to keep out the opposition on their first league appearance. Now it's on to our local derby with Fulham, this time being played just 3 miles down the river, as opposed to the last game a month ago, 3,500 miles away in Philadelphia.
So we've got a massive game to look forward to at the weekend. And I'm not talking about the Fulham one, not quite yet. I'm talking about the England Lionesses, who did an incredible job today to get past Australia. All the stadium was against them. The vibe seemed to be, after the game they played at the Brentford Community Stadium earlier in the year, in that horrendously cold, rainy night, where the Matildas, I love the name of the Matildas, they beat England that night. But today proved that they weren't there just for the taking part. They had the quality and they had the belief to dig deep and to win through a semi-final. Semi-finals, and again, I'm not doing the lazy cliches. You can't compare you can't tarnish the England women's performances with the England men's dismal failings of the last 60 years or whatever it is, since 66. They're completely separate. But what the England women achieved today was truly special, Ali, and you're still buzzing from it.
Oh yeah, I think it was. First of all, I think it was it was a really good game of football. It was a massive ding-dong game of football. Which really, all the goals were great goals, really. I think Toon's hit in the first half to put England in front was quite a hit. And then I think Sam Kerr equalised with one, which was sort of, well, as you know, Sam Kerr all over, ran the length of the pitch and then whacked it in from about 25 yards. And Russo's for the third was superb. I think going into this tournament, I think a lot of people, myself included, didn't expect England to probably get to the final because with all the injuries we've had, and then we had Lauren James obviously got herself suspended, and it's almost felt like everything's been against England going into and during this World Cup, and you know they've just got that monster winning mentality, and you know I think winning the Euros has given them that, and they just keep going on, and they've got to the final, and you know what is fantastic to see. You know, even over the last 4 years from the France World Cup, is that the stadiums are all full. The stadiums are all full. And, you know, it's leading every single news bulletin. 5 Live is talking about this afternoon, this evening. Nothing except the Lionesses. It is women's football at an international and professional level has gone from the public consciousness from being barely there to, like, leading all the news bulletins and everybody talking about it. And I think it's fantastic for the women's game, and just really, really hope again that the FA grasp this opportunity to make sure it goes all the way down to grassroots, and we really invest in the enthusiasm that we're going to continue to get through grassroots. But yeah, what a performance, what a game, great advert for women's football, and I cannot wait for Sunday. I hope to organise some sort of watch party to go and do it, given that we can't quite get to Australia. But yeah, and come on the Lionesses.
Damien, are you getting up early from face painting and all that?
It's not that early.
Well, no, he is. He doesn't get up till 2 in the afternoon.
Hang on, I've got young kids. I do. I get up at about 6 even on a Sunday. So yeah, no, I'll be up. My kids will have their faces painted. No, really looking forward to it. I think it was fantastic to then, especially as you said, in such a hostile environment. You know, with so many. You know, obviously the vast majority of the crowd were behind the Matildas. To do it, you know, there and get the result is just amazing, and just to keep that profile right up there for women's football and English women's football, especially on the back of last summer's achievements. So, no, great stuff.
And for women's football in Australia, I mean, you know, they've sold more jerseys for the Matildas in this World Cup than they have ever for the Socceroos. So. You know, like it's not a competition, but sort of like the game in Australia has gone, you know, through the roof. It's fantastic to see women's football do so well.
No, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And as I kind of alluded to, you know, the intro to this section, you know, it's one of 2 really big games this weekend, and we'll move on to the Fulham match, which. We played them fairly recently, and we had 2 cracking games against them last season. Although one of them I don't think we deserved to lose, and the other one we certainly deserved to win. They both finished 3-2, and the game in Philadelphia weirdly finished 3-2. And are we going to get another 3-2 this weekend, Al?
Quite possibly. I mean, I think you've got. I don't know what is the latest on the Mitrovic situation. I think he's gone again, isn't he? Today, is he gone again today? He's gone. He's back. He's gone.
From what I hear, the Saudi club have come back in for him, and yeah, they're serious. They want him. He wants to go. He obviously he famously said, "I'll never play for Fulham again," but then did. But you know, you have to manage these situations, I guess. Because if it does fall through, then he's still contracted to stay with the River Rats, and you know he has to kind of he's managing a legacy as well. He's clearly a huge crowd favourite of Fulham, and you know he doesn't want that to end. You know, kind of rearing up in his face, but it's clearly, you know, he's going to be offered massive money to go to Riyadh or wherever, and you know he'll feather his nest for the rest of his life. What's your thoughts ahead of the you know, let's not let a Philadelphia friendly kind of dilute what is an actual fierce West London derby match. I was there in Philly. There was no Fulham fans there that I saw as such. There was Brentford fans, but I was around them. There was obviously clearly no Derby Day vibe going on. It was that was surreal as it were. Drinking $20 tins of beer in a stadium and teaching them the Michael Jacksons. I won't even say it. So teaching them some rather raucous, un-PC songs about building shrines to Michael Jackson. So it was a really good day. But this weekend is the real thing. This isn't an Americanized kind of like Hollywood version of a London derby. This is the real deal. You buzzing for this, Al?
Yeah, always buzzing. Derby games are always that sort of like thing where you're buzzing for it, but you also approach it with trepidation, because if you win, it's the best feeling ever, and if you don't win, it's like makes you really bloody miserable, doesn't it? It's always the worst game to lose. I think it'll probably be a cracking match, actually. I think Fulham are fair play to them. They're so much more than Mitrovic, and they've shown that before. I think it could be a cracking game again, actually. I have us to come out just on top. I really do. I think there'll be goals in it. But I think we might. I think.
Hold your prediction right there. Don't give us your prediction quite yet.
Okay.
No. We're going to get. I'm going to ask Dane. We walked away from Craven Cottage a bit downhearted last time. I felt hard done by. I don't think we deserved to lose that game. Fatrovic, whatever you call him, he came up right in the last minute with that header. We almost asked for that. It was a poor clearance, and we just didn't deal with it. We got back in it and blah blah blah. I mean, I'm going to go through it all over again. I've said it the last year. It was the game that I just certainly didn't think we deserved. How did you feel after the game last year, Damien?
Yeah, same as you, Dave. I mean, as we know, Brentford don't generally do draws, and I think we sort of went for it, didn't we, in that last 10 minutes? And I think Ivan Toney had a goal disallowed, if I remember. And yeah, I mean, it was just slight lax defending towards the end that sort of that allowed them to pick us off. But no, look, it was disappointing, but that will be fresh in the mind still, I'm sure, for the players that are still around, and that will be motivation for Saturday.
I agree. Right, before predictions, I'm going to head over to Dan Crawford from the Fulham Green Pole podcast. He's going to tell us what's going down at the moment at Craven Cottage and the vibe in the camp. They got their season off to a really positive start. They got a 1-0 win away at Goodison. They beat Everton. It sounds like they got away with murder up there. Neil Maupay missed about 5 or 6 really good chances.
Once a B,
always a B. Yeah. However, let's listen to Dan. Then we'll come back with our own predictions.
Hello everybody, I'm Dan Crawford from hammyn.com and our Green Pole podcast. Delighted to be talking to you about Fulham ahead of the derby on Saturday. Our last podcast was actually with Billy, speaking about the game, but before that we've interviewed some Fulham players and covered the pre-season in depth, doing some features with our American fans on the summer series that Brentford were also involved in. Our Hammy End website has been going for 20 years now this year, covering all the craziness at Craven Cottage, and we're hoping to do 20 years more, although my hairline probably won't last that long. So I'm going to run through some of these topics ahead of the derby on Saturday. Last season was fantastic for Fulham, exceeded our expectations, as you know, going up, down, up, down, up, down. From the Championship to the Premier League was pretty monotonous and frustrating for Fulham fans. Marco Silva's really made the difference. He not only encouraged Fulham to attack the opposition, which was a real relief after the Scott Parker era, but he built a side that was able to do that and still keep the opposition at bay. Brought in some really good signings, mainly João Palhinha last summer, who's the linchpin of Fulham's midfield, but also coaxed some fantastic performances out of people who frankly, we thought were past it, like Willian last season, Tim Ream, well into his 30s and did well enough to go to the United States, to go to the World Cup with the United States last winter, having had a fantastic season. And of course, we scored plenty of goals and weren't just relying on Aleksandar Mitrovic. More about that later. Marks out of 10, it has to be at least a 9, maybe even a 10, because finishing in the top half and beating Chelsea was quite something. Not at all what we or even the pundits expected. Pre-season, we've been a bit disappointed with the lack of incomings. We thought this summer was a real opportunity to build on the success of last season. It hasn't really happened yet. Just 3 summer signings for the senior side. Adama Traore, the last of them, a free transfer on Saturday evening. But before that, Calvin Bassey coming in from Ajax as defensive cover, and Raul Jimenez coming in from Wolves for £5.5 million to add some Premier League pedigree to the front line, and plenty of uncertainty, not only about Mitrovic, who's still being pursued by several teams from Saudi Arabia, but also Willian and Marco Silva himself, who's rejected approaches from other Premier League clubs and several teams in Saudi Arabia, and still only has a year left on his contract. He's refused to sign a new one until he sees what the board are giving him in terms of acquisitions over the summer. So a bit of uncertainty. The pre-season in America was good though. Competitive games. We obviously played Brentford, and I don't need to tell you about that, but we played Aston Villa and Chelsea as well. A good experience for the side, and we rounded off pre-season with a 2-1 win at Craven Cottage over Hoffenheim. There's still some concern that the squad is a bit threadbare for going toe-to-toe with everyone else in the top flight. But we're delighted with Marco Silva. He got us up from the Championship, playing arguably the best football since Sean Tagana's team stormed to the First Division title in the early 2000s, and then established ourselves well clear of the relegation zone by really attacking the top flight in a way that nobody was quite expecting to be as successful as it was. Silva's also challenged the Fulham hierarchy to invest and build on the team, and he's got a very close connection with a number of his players and the squad. There's a bit of Fulham history there with Luis Barmorte amongst his coaching staff, and he's built a really strong bond with the fans, so it would have been really disappointing had he left earlier this summer. The squad, as I've already mentioned, looks a bit short on numbers. We've got a number of promising young players, the likes of Luke Harris, Luke de Fougerolles and Jay Stansfield, really making an impression over the summer, but it's probably a bit too early to rely on them. We've had brilliant performances from players who were sort of on the fringes of the first team previously. I've mentioned Tim Ream. Bobby Decordova-Reid got the winning goal at Everton on Saturday. He's a sort of versatile player. He'll play anywhere for us and does really well, but eventually a lack of proven Premier League quality will catch up with you. Mitrovic has obviously been the subject of serious speculation that has peaked again in the last 24 hours. We'd dearly love to hold him because he's an outstanding forward, not just in terms of scoring goals, but bringing other people into play. And the uncertainty is really wearing, to be honest. So we'd hope to do well. Nobody could really do better after last season. There are a couple of sort of deadwood at the fringes of the squad we'd like to get rid of before September, but I'm sure every Premier League team has a few of those. The Brentford game has always been one I really look forward to ever since I was a child, and Brentford were a couple of divisions above us with the likes of Nicky Forster and so on, really pushing to get into sort of what would have been the old First Division. I'm a West London boy myself. I live in Acton, so have a lot of neighbours who are Brentford and QPR, so those derbies are really well contested, and I've been really impressed with Brentford and their rise through the divisions, masterminded by Matthew Benham, of course, but with no shortage of footballing now, so they've really shown how to build a football club and a football team on the field, as well as being an outstanding community club in recent years. You've got some excellent players, even if you'll be without Ivan Toney for a while. Looking forward to see how Kevin Sade goes in the Premier League. Ben Mee and Nathan Collins at the back, Norgard and Damsgaard in midfield, real technicians of high quality, and Wiss has been really impressive since he's come into the team. So there's plenty of potential players to strike fear into Fulham hearts this weekend, as you have done quite regularly at Craven Cottage in recent years. It's been a happy hunting ground for Brentford. We'd really like to put paid to that. In terms of the game itself, I'm always nervous about it on account of that recent record. We did get the better of Brentford barely in the first game of last season at Craven Cottage, thanks to Mitrovic's very late header, although I thought Brentford did really well to come back into that game and could very easily have nicked it. You turned the tables at in the second fixture of the season. Fulham slightly below par, Brentford putting on a good display, but plenty of goals, and I can see that happening again this weekend because we're not as solid defensively as we might like. I'll go for a 2-2 draw because I can see it being a very open affair, and I think if we were honest, both of us would take a point even if we want the bragging rights. Very pleased to have the opportunity to discuss this with you. Hope you enjoy the podcast and the game on Saturday, although not too much. Take care, lads, and speak to you soon.
Thanks, Dan, for giving us the lowdown on the River Rats. We will be heading over to upstream a little bit, 3 miles up the road, for what is one of the biggest clashes of the season from historical terms. There's plenty of pubs. Not all of them will let Brentford fans in. There's a few that we know of that we'll be heading towards. It's a couple that are away fan friendly. It's a weird one, but if we do get a positive result, then we'll be eating our quiche and our Victoria sponges in the park after the game. That's for sure. I think that's what we do. So let's go around the table now and work out where we think the game is gonna finish. Ali, what's your score prediction?
I am going to say 2-1 to the Super Bees.
I like it. DF?
I'm going to go 2-0 Bees.
Ooh.
I'm going to go 3-2 Brentford. I think this 3-2 thing is going to happen for a while. I think you're right, Al. I think there's goals in this one. But so we got a unanimous. Everyone thinks we're winners, so
we'll probably lose.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll rule nothing out. But anyway, thanks for coming on, Ali, and thanks for coming on, Damon. Hope you've enjoyed your visit onto the virtual joint tonight. So we'll have to get together on Saturday and have an actual beer. Billy's over in the States again. He's on a family holiday this time, so he's away for a couple of weeks. I'll be hosting every week until his return, and probably after that as well. The podcast will be with you straight after the game, whether we win, lose or draw at Craven Cottage. Don't forget to buy Besotted a beer at besotted.com/beer. You're welcome to join our Besotted Global, which voted Rico Henry as their man of the match. It was the most one-sided man of the match there's ever been. It was 96% which it was basically everyone said Rico, and then there was one person that probably said Flecken, and another person that said Brian and Boomo. I don't know, but so well done to Rico. It's a brilliant start to the season. Let's hope that continues away at Craven Cottage. So all that's left for me to say is, come on, you Breeze! Go on, you Breeze! Go on, Brentford!